Hi there again. Social 20-1 source relationships for our look at foreign policy. So you probably forgot source one from last week was the quote from Adolf Hitler about Lebensraum, German living space. We looked at the cartoon actually, in fact, just yesterday, and this was critiquing the American foreign policy of isolationism. America in its front yard, overlooking the Atlantic and seeing war in Europe, but not committing and getting involved in it. And this one we actually just covered the piece of Japanese propaganda uh, advocating Japanese expansionist foreign policies. So what we do now, as you know, is we need to link these sources together. So again, to keep you um, in the scheme of how this works, you need to pick a theme or a concept that ties all three sources together. It could be as general and straightforward as foreign policy, although I think, duh, it is foreign policy. You might talk about how each of the three sources advocates, critiques a different kind of foreign policy, maybe. So, source one is a clear advocation of expansionist foreign policies. There's no guilt involved in it. This is what we need to do. It is our duty, our calling to do this, a full blown expansionist foreign policy. This one is actually critiquing the foreign policy of isolationism. And so it's not really advocating a foreign policy. If anything, it's nudging America to get involved in World War II in Europe, but it's critiquing the foreign policy of isolationism. And then finally, source three, one more clear advocation of expansionist foreign policy. So again, you pick your theme, your concept, you explain how each source is linked to that concept. And if you stop there, the most you can get for relationships is 60%. You need to find one more relationship among the sources. So, what you might do is you might talk about how source one and three are similar in that they're advocating expansionist policies, but take it further. Source one and three saw short term gain for the countries involved. So, Germany acquired some territory in the short term. Japan acquired some territory in the short term, but neither country could keep it. By 1945, both countries had been defeated after World War II and actually would be divided up in some cases and even occupied by their enemies during the time after World War II. So you might just say that while expansionist policies gave countries some short term benefits, there was no longevity attached to it. And in many ways, those nations were worse off after they'd been defeated than they were before they even began the expansionist policies. And you might mention one more as well, in that even in source two, even though this one isn't advocating an expansionist policy, it's critiquing a selfish, you could argue, foreign policy, and that America not getting involved in World War II would only set other European nations back, and sooner or later America is going to have to get involved anyway. That's after the Japanese bomb Pearl Harbor. So you might talk a bit about that as well. You talk about how each of these policies, played out for the countries involved in the time after World War II. Maybe you could allude to that. That's probably as much as you would need to do for relationships to get a good mark.